welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Welcome back to another episode of Turn Left, Indiana's own. Y'all, I tell you what, this is amazing. Aren't you excited? Like, I know y'all like, dang, Dana, how many shows are you going to put out? As many as I can, because the goal is to get you all informed about what's going on, who's running for office here in our state, because we know none of the local news coverage is going to highlight these candidates. And if you got your nose all the way up at the federal level, you'll never learn about these candidates. But please understand, all politics are local, and the most powerful place in all of politics is the State House. I know a lot of y'all don't think that, but I'm telling you, it truly, truly is the State House. The State House will determine what kind of representation you're going to have. They determine what district you're in. They determine if your schools are going to get funded or not, because that's what they've been doing. So that's why I'm excited about all the candidates who are running for office, particularly for our State House. And I have another guest for you today. Y'all, give it up for Lauren Cole, who is running for House District 37. Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I love it. So tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Yeah, so I'm Lauren. I went to Earlham College over in Richmond, Indiana, which is a really small town over on the border. And I got my degree in biochemistry. So definitely very different from politics, which I'm doing right now. I currently work in cancer clinical trials, which I absolutely love. I work for an organization where we get to work with global sponsors. So it's a worldwide operation, and I think it's very impactful, and it's a really good job. I decided to move out to the Fishers area where I live now a few years ago. Because I was working in the COVID labs at the time. So that was right at the height of the pandemic, and we needed a ton of help. So I kind of worked the bench with 2,000 other people, and we were providing testing for the rest of the state. So that was a really exciting opportunity as well. And I've just been yeah, it was. I got COVID a few times. But yeah, it definitely, we worked with the state and we tried to provide the best care that we could to patients during that time, which was a very scary time for a lot of people, just trying to navigate and figure out how we were going to kind of combat the rise in the cases and make sure that everybody was safe.
How did you take it when they were trying to tell us that, COVID wasn't real and inject bleach? And I mean, as a scientist, were you like Dr. Fauci?
Yeah, it was hard. And, I would have people from all different parts of my life reaching out to me, talking to me about how, this controversy existed and nobody believed that COVID was real. This is where I do believe that politics played an important role, of course, in kind of just disseminating that information. But, you just keep working on it and you just keep trying to do the right thing. So that's what we did. But it was definitely hard.
I love it. So you said what was it again? Biochemistry?
Biochem. Yeah, biochemistry.
So you are a scientist of all scientists. So when you think about the personnel who are elected officials in our State House, how much science you think's going on in there?
Probably not very much, and it worries me a lot. And I think that we need to have more people that care about looking at data and results and making sure that we're doing things that make sense. So I don't think that there are a lot of people in there right now. So I really hope that, I'm able to bring that perspective. I love data. Obviously, it's what I do for work. So hopefully we can bring that perspective to the State House and start making some better decisions.
Yeah. And see, it seems like there's a lot of decisions being made about, healthcare that are impacting lives negatively. When you think about where Indiana is when it comes to healthcare, you're a biochemist, you are a scientist, you are in the healthcare space. What do you see? And what would you like to see us do different?
Well, I think that talking to experts is really important. And I'd like to see more of that in the State House. And one of my main concerns with healthcare right now is just the affordability crisis and bringing more transparency and accountability into that into that space as well, so that we know what we're going to be paying for before we pay for it.
Right.
So we can show up and get the care that we need, and we can trust experts to be doing research, because research is also really, really important. There's no way that we can, as a state or even as a country, continue to keep up with everybody else and make sure that we're learning everything that we can about different diseases and different cancers and those types of things if we're not going to invest in that and listen to experts when they find new information.
I imagine it's incredibly frustrating for you when you see what's happening to the CDC.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. I almost wish we had like a state version of the CDC, and we may have, and I just don't know it, right? Where we can like look at how the environment is impacting our health, because right? They put a report out 10 years ago that said if you have asthma, you should leave Indiana.
Yeah.
Our air quality is so bad. What are some of the most interesting things that you've learned studying biochemistry and the impacts of healthcare on humans on a daily basis?
Yeah, well, I think that getting involved in the workforce in the middle of a pandemic kind of felt like a fire hose. You're learning a lot all at the same time. And I learned how important it is to have leaders who work to solve the problem. And we didn't necessarily see that in Indiana. And I don't know, there's a lot more work that we need to do specifically in our state to make sure that we make the best decisions for healthcare, just for our own constituents and just for everybody in Indiana in general.
I love it. So now you've decided that what was the thing that said, I'm going to put my name on the ballot?
There are several things, and this is, it's a little bit of a tough question to answer because, I have two nieces, and one of them is in the public school system really close to me, and those schools are being defunded. I have those girls all the time, and so they kind of claim me as their second mother. So I care a lot about them and their futures. My other niece is only 3 years old, and she's on the autism spectrum. And so because of the cuts to Medicaid, her school actually just got shut down. I found out last week. So she doesn't get to go to school at all. And there's no sense of normalcy for her anymore. And it absolutely breaks my heart. And I look at, how difficult it's been for me. My fiance and I both have bachelor's degrees, but one of us has always had to have a second job just to be able to keep up with the rising costs. And so there are just so many things. And I was tired of complaining about those things. And I recognized that there was a need. And so I decided to step up. Of course, running against the Speaker of the House is definitely a challenge.
Oh, I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
I did that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Listen, Lauren, I did that. I am so proud of you for taking that step. And because I'm telling you, in 2016, I ran against the Speaker of the House. So now you've moved up a whole bunch of notches as one of my favorite candidates. It's not easy. Especially when you think about the fact that you're paying his salary.
Right. That's the worst part, I think.
So yeah, were you nervous about putting your name on the ballot against the Speaker of the House?
Well, of course I was nervous, and of course I'm still nervous. But I think that it's kind of like anything in life, where if you're passionate enough and if you care enough, you're willing to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation to just try and make things better and make a change. So, it gets better and better every day as I'm learning more. And, being a candidate is hard, as you know. So you learn a little bit more every day, and you get a little bit more comfortable with it every day. So,
and I'm sorry, I cut you off. You were saying that your niece who's on the spectrum, her school shut down. Was it a charter school or something?
No, so it was a school that was specifically for ABA therapy. And we recently at the state level kind of opened up ABA therapy to be able to have better funding through Medicaid. And of course, because of that, the cost skyrocketed. And so they shut it down really quickly, and they said, hey, we've got to figure out what's going on with this. And unfortunately, because she was at a smaller school, they really heavily relied on that funding. And I just found out that the owner of that school even put her mortgage up to try and make sure that they could keep that school open, and it just didn't work. And, she comes over to my house and she calls me Lolo, and she'll say, Lolo, when do I get to go back to school? And I don't know how to tell her she doesn't get to go to school right now. And so there's a lot of stuff that we need to work on to make sure that the people who use those services that really need those services aren't impacted just because we decided to shut down funding the way that we did. So
yeah, was this particular school like tied to a public school anyway, or?
I don't think it was tied to a public school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm all in your business, but I imagine, as a family, you guys will be kind of like looking at what public school options are available, or is it the reason why they went with this particular school because there wasn't any options?
Yeah. I mean, right now, obviously, with the funding issues in the public schools, there's not a lot of opportunities for a student who, needs that extra support to be able to get that extra support, because teachers are already wearing thin with how much they're trying to do right now. So obviously they're looking into it. This is very recent. It was just about a week ago. Right. So I'm not sure what her mom's going to decide or what they're going to be able to do about it. But as of right now, she's coming over to my house and we'll hang out as much as we can. Hopefully they're able to find, another option for her. But as of right now, we don't have any options that we've found. So,
I'm listening to this because, these decisions that are being made at the level of, funding and things like that are having real impact. A lot of people say, well, the property tax cuts, but the ripple effect of cutting funding, do you, and I'm speculating, but do you feel like they didn't look at the whole picture? You're a scientist. You would have looked at, a lot of different angles before you would have made a decision. Do you feel like they just not looking at everything?
I feel like they do look at everything, but we have a prioritization problem right now. And so the amount of money that we had to increase for this funding was, of course, this is from a different bucket in the budget, but essentially it's the same amount of money that we're foregoing in tax incentives for these data centers. So it's not that we don't have the money, it's that we don't prioritize spending the money where it's actually going to benefit Hoosiers. We just prioritize other things right now. So we do have the money, we just don't prioritize the things that would make the biggest impact for, constituents in our area and just in Indiana in general.
Wow, that's scary. And it's really having a negative impact on real people's lives. And I feel what you were saying, and I'm sorry that this is happening to your family, but now like, okay, I see how this thing happened. I see why it happened. Now I want to do something about it. When you thought about, again, you're a scientist. I know the scientific method. You think things through 100 times over. When you realized that something needed to change and you decided to put your name on the ballot, what were your nieces, but what were the other issues that also drove you to say, okay, enough is enough?
Yeah, just affordability in general, honestly, because, I am pretty young, and I realized that I looked around me and all of my friends are also dealing with an affordability crisis as well. And I realized it's not just my generation either. It's not because we're just trying to get our start. I'm hearing this from people of all different age groups are dealing with this affordability crisis. And so that was one of the main reasons that I decided to step up, because it really does come down to my nieces. And I look at them and I don't want them to enter the workforce and have it be as challenging or, with the trajectory that we're on, maybe even more challenging than what we're experiencing right now. And so, one of them's 3, the other one's in elementary school. So we have a few years. And I just thought maybe I can get in there and maybe I can do something about it to help the next generation that's coming up, because it's really difficult for a lot of people right now. And I know that we could be making better decisions that would have a more positive impact on everybody.
Yeah, I feel that. And I imagine, so are you a homeowner? Or
no, I rent.
Okay. And are you seeing like the because of the affordability issue that I don't even know if you want to be a homeowner, right? I'm going to, like you said, you and your fiance have to at one point or another have to have a second job. Are you finding it like, do you feel like your life is better than what your parents had? Or are you like, talk about it.
Yeah, no, not at all. And, I have conversations with my parents a lot about these things. And my parents are both proud Democrats. I was raised as a Democrat. And, my dad I grew up with privilege, and my dad he didn't understand for a long time. And so navigating those conversations with somebody who's coming from a different perspective, or, even my grandparents' generation, where they believe just get a job. It makes everything easier. But then you realize, there was a study that came out that says 14% of Hoosiers are having to find supplemental income right now on top of their 40-hour work week. And this is not something that my parents' generation experienced.
Mm-hmm.
I laugh at my dad sometimes because he would say something like, well, for date night, maybe go grab a 99-cent Whopper. And those don't exist anymore.
Right.
It's $10 for a Burger King meal now. So yeah, they're slowly starting to understand how difficult it really is for people who haven't had an opportunity to build wealth yet. And even people that have had an opportunity to build wealth are struggling because they're having to dip into their savings and everything like that. So I think that they're slowly starting to come around and understand that it's definitely much different than it was, 30 years ago.
Yeah. And then when you're out knocking doors and you're talking to your potential constituents, are they also talking about affordability issues with you? And how do they want you to try to fix it?
Yeah. So I have people, they'll say to me, well, what are you going to do? Go to Kroger and make bananas cheaper? And in reality, we can't change the prices of groceries or things like that, but we can pass policies that will make healthcare more affordable, which adds more money to your pocket. We can pass policies where instead of giving business incentives tied to things that don't uplift the working class, we can tie those incentives into things like wage growth or, benefits and things like that. So it's less about making things that we can't make less expensive, and more about how can we put more money into people's pockets so that when people work full time, hard work is enough again. And I do believe that as Hoosiers, we deserve nothing less than that. And I think that there's definitely a path to get that done. We just have to be willing to do the work and kind of reprioritize the things that matter.
You just gave me a slogan, make hard work enough again. That says it all, and I feel for you young folk, because wasn't there like a study that came out that said people are not buying their first homes until they're in their 40s, and the average age was like before in the late 20s, early 30s. Have you thought about children and what that would look like?
Yeah. People ask me this all the time. I am at the age where I would love nothing more than to start a family. My family is the most important thing to me in the world, and I can't wait to be able to start a family. I can't wait to own a home. But it's not something that really is realistic right now. And I wouldn't want to start a family if I couldn't afford to take care of them the way that I want to take care of them. So for now, I hang out with my nieces as much as I can. The older one actually comes canvassing with me sometimes. So we have a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, I hopefully someday and hopefully soon.
I hope so too, because we need people who are future focused in the State House. I imagine you've had a few conversations about data centers. You're a scientist, and like you said, we know you like data. We know that we need data. I actually like AI. I'm not opposed to AI. What I am opposed to is AI and AI data centers in neighborhoods. Right. What are your thoughts on data centers, because you are so data focused?
Yeah. So for my future constituents specifically, we don't necessarily have any data centers coming into our backyards.
Oh, wonderful.
So their concern seems to be more about how is this going to affect our utility costs? How is this going to affect the environment? The thing that I think about all the time is, number one, we need to make sure that we run the test to make sure that this is going to be safe. So we need a moratorium until we can ensure that this is not going to impact us the way that some experts are saying that it's going to impact us. And number two, we're giving out a ton of money for these data centers to come here. And we're saying that Indiana is the best and cheapest place for a data center to come. But when the work is done, it doesn't really employ that many people. So return on investment is a huge thing for me. And I believe that if taxpayers are paying money for a business incentive, then we need to have a measurable return on investment for that amount of money, especially when we're being told that we don't have enough money to pay for the things that really matter to us. So there's a lot of things with data centers. I'm not opposed to doing the research to look into how we might be able to find responsible solutions for this, but the way that we're doing it right now is absolutely not okay. And again, it's not going to be in the backyards of my constituents, but they are worried about their utility costs. They're worried about the economic impact and just how it's going to affect our state as a whole and the environment. I mean, we're looking into some research about how it's going to impact the environment, and It's not illegal to lie for some politicians to get up there and say there's absolutely no negative impact to the environment, which we know is not true. So I have a lot of concerns when it comes to the data centers. And I hope that we can at least take a pause and look into these things before we just go full steam ahead and start putting them in people's backyards.
Yeah, literally, because I've got one coming in my council, my city council district, and I'm frustrated because it was a Democrat who was for it, and I'm like, we finna primary you, bro. Like you got to go because you did not listen to us. The other thing that I'm hearing quite a bit about, especially from people of all ages, is the legalization of cannabis. Right. We are cutting. We call ourselves cutting funding to save on property taxes, which all it did was defund first responders, defund public education, defund municipalities. But we're not looking at ways to generate revenue. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk about and again, I'm leaning all the way into this biochemist, because you got knowledge I ain't got. Right. I can't do it. Talk to us about your feelings on the legalization of cannabis, both from a health perspective and a policy perspective.
Yeah, I actually love that you brought this up. This is not something that I talk a lot about on the campaign trail, but we've kind of come up with this new slogan when I'm posting on Threads specifically. I'll ask people what's really important to them in our district. And the two things that they say are pot and potholes. Ooh. So they want to see the roads fixed. And I think about this, in multiple different ways. So the amount of money that we could collect on taxes if we were to legalize cannabis would definitely help us pay for these social services that we need to be funding. And number two, there's a responsible way to do it. And as a biochemist, if we were to legalize this, we would be able to have control on the quality of the product that is being put out. We would be able to force regulations to make sure that we're being safe about it. And we can also, make sure that this is not going out to young people the same way that we regulate alcohol and the same way that we regulate cigarettes and those types of things. But there is an economic benefit to legalizing it. People who need it for medicinal reasons will be able to get it much easier, and we can regulate it in a way that keeps everybody else safe, because the amount of money that we're giving away to Michigan really frustrates me, because that is money that we could definitely be using in our own state. So I think that there are so many positives to legalizing it someday, and multiple different avenues of why I believe that. So
yeah, I'm glad to hear that. And actually, the way that you explain things, you're mature beyond your years. I can look at you and see me and you wasn't born in the same century. We weren't born in the same century. I know it.
There's a one in front of my year. Don't worry.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, 97.
Oh, okay. Wow. I would have never thought that. I know that we're not supposed to, comment on folks' appearance, but I did not see that coming. I saw a little bit younger. I really did.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I really did. But your maturity in the way that you explain things, like from the way that you explain the return on investment, right? How are we investing in our state to get something out of it? A lot of people always think that taxes are just a thing that they have to pay, but it's about paying. It's about taking care of the community. So I have to ask you, I know you said you came from privilege, but that don't mean nothing, because there's a lot of jerks that come from privilege, right? Mm-hmm. What was it about your youth that you had to be laser focused to get that biochem degree? And the second part of this is, do you have a minor? But what was it about you and your person that made you say, I'm going to be laser focused on getting this biochem degree and do something positive in the world?
Well, I actually had two things that I was passionate about when I was younger. I do have a minor. It's in music, which I know is random to pair with biochemistry, but I love music.
It's all math.
Yeah. And I had two paths in front of me. When I was in high school, I was really interested in history as well. And I was part of, the political clubs, and I canvassed when I was younger to get my National Honor Society hours, because I felt like that was an impactful thing that I could do. So when I first got to college, I actually wasn't sure if I was going to do science or if I was going to go into politics. And the year that I declared my major, I actually declared as biology first, but the year that I declared that was a few months before Donald Trump was elected for the first time. So I had made the decision not to go into politics initially, because I could not have guessed that we would be here today.
Right.
So
me neither.
My mom is a nurse. And I used to just love talking to her about what she did. She was a labor and delivery nurse for most of my life. So just hearing the stories about the patients that she was able to impact kind of made me fall in love with science as a whole, because I recognize that it's more than just test tubes. You can really have an impact on people's lives. And, that service aspect of it is really important to me. And I was always taught to try and leave the world a better place than you came into it. So every single decision that I make in my life is an attempt to try and do some form of good, whatever that may be. So I also just really enjoy science. I grew up watching Bill Nye the Science Guy, and I went down to DC for the No Kings protest back in October of last year, and I got to march behind him. So that was a really cool full circle moment for me, because it kind of connected both my worlds. But yeah, I've just always been really passionate about science, and I've also always been really passionate about politics and just trying to make the world a little bit easier for people.
So what do you say to young girls? So there's going to be a young girl watching this video, and we've often, as women and girls, have been discouraged from, getting into STEM. What advice, what would you say encouraging to a young girl who likes science, likes math, likes technology, but are being told that's not a ladylike thing to do?
I would tell them don't listen, because some of the most intelligent doctors that I know are women, and they have made such an impact in their own communities in the research that they have done. I have the privilege of working with a lot of pathologists who do a multitude of different things, but most of them are women. And a lot of the people, my entire team, there's only 5 of us actually, but we are all women. Wow. So a lot of people are going to tell you as a woman that you can't do something, but in your heart whether or not that's true. So I would say be firm in what you believe and always stand up for what you think you can do, because you can do a lot more. Everybody's going to tell you that you can't do things, and then they'll come behind you once you do it and they'll say, oh, we always believed in you. So just believe in yourself as much as you can, and don't take no for an answer. Just keep working at it.
I love it. Do you do motivational speaking? Do you? Because you should. You should.
I don't. I don't really do public speaking at all. So, I don't know. Maybe it makes me nervous.
Well, listen, I've been public speaking since I was 5, and I still get nervous. So don't worry about that. But I just think you have an amazing story. And, sometimes young people need to see it to believe it. And I know why you're out here knocking doors and you're going to go to events. I hope that you incorporate in your conversation that little bit of nudge, because I promise you, everywhere you go, there's going to be that little girl who is thinking that she's not allowed because because the governor just got through talking about nuclear families and whatnot, and all the things. And sometimes, strict religious homes or conservative homes or, where they're not going to really be able to, do their passion like your parents encourage you to do. So think about that as you are off talking to people and you're off sharing your story. Make sure, because this probably has nothing to do with the campaign. It's just about the person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you have something fantastic that you can share with people. Was there anything that you want to share with us that I did not ask you about?
There are so many things to talk about.
Let's go.
I don't know. I wanted to talk about a few things that I found interesting that my opponent decided to vote on, because, as Speaker of the House, he can abstain from votes. And typically people will not vote on controversial topics.
Okay.
So I find it really interesting that he voted for criminalizing homelessness.
Yeah.
I found that really interesting, because that is a very controversial thing to vote for. And it's one of the very few things that he actually chose to vote for.
Interesting.
So that was interesting. And then
the
obviously
$500 fine. I don't understand that. How is somebody with housing insecurity supposed to get $500?
Yeah, well, it's that. And then it's also, if you have, any type of record, it makes it more difficult for you to be able to lift yourself up and go get a job after that. So it just kind of forces people to stay down. And that's really frustrating, because we could be using our resources to be more helpful rather than kicking people while they're down. So
absolutely. What else? Oh my God. If you have a laundry list, run through your list, sis.
Okay. So criminalizing homelessness was a little bit wild. Voted to comply with ICE in our own state. And this is a tough one because I really try not to I obviously have my own opinions about what's happening federally, but that isn't something that I like to talk about a lot on the campaign trail. But when it comes to, allocating state resources to this, that is something that he voted for as well. So I do get to talk a little bit about ICE when it comes to that. And I'm a granddaughter of an immigrant who has worked really, really hard. And so I don't agree with those types of things.
No,
I find it very controversial. And, one of the things that people will say, what is the worst bill that they're working on, or what is the worst thing that they've done? And I think the more important question is, what are the things that they're not looking at? Because it's all a distraction tactic, right? So they'll do something like, we'll give you guys back a little bit in your property taxes through SEA 1, and then they'll throw the referendum on the ballot so that if we decide not to go through with it, then they can point their fingers at us when the schools fail instead of recognizing that they put us in this position in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I think that the thing that I try to focus on is not so much the wild things that they're doing to distract us, because I think that that's what they want us to focus on, is all these wild things. Because if we're looking all the way over here, then we're not thinking about the fact that, we need to be focusing on the things that the voters are talking about, which is fixing the roads infrastructure, which is maybe legalizing cannabis, if that's something that everybody agrees with. And from polling, it seems like that is something that they want to be working on. It's making sure that our SNAP benefits are not the first things that are getting cut, because we have people with food insecurity, and, we're putting money into data centers and putting money into, what are they called? The stadiums and things like that. And it looks like we have a lot of money and everything's going really well. But actually, when you get down to it, if we only look at GDP and we only look at the total unemployment rate, we're not telling the whole story about why Hoosiers are hurting right now. Mm-hmm. So I hope that through my campaign, I can focus on the issues rather than focusing on the attacks that I know will probably come my way. I don't want there to be, I don't want to not focus on the things that are really important. And I think that that's something that a lot of us struggle with, of course, because it's easier to talk about the things that are sensational right now. It's easy to talk about the culture wars, but I think that in order to do a service to our communities, we really need to focus on the things that people are talking about at the doors, which is school funding, affordable healthcare, better education through school funding, the affordability issue, making sure that our rent stays lower, not allowing utility companies to price gouge us so that they can make up extra money. So I really hope that we can
make extra money for operational expenses, not for upgrades, right? Not for better service.
Right.
Jesus. Okay. See, now you got me fired up.
Good.
What else you got?
I don't know.
I mean, those are good. Those are enough things right there. I mean, that is a lot. And it sounds like you spend a lot of time paying attention to the policies and not just, emoting, right? I emote. I ain't gonna lie to you. I emote, but I emote while I'm watching the General Assembly. That's why I will never be elected. You have it seems like you have the disposition to be able to kind of level set. What is your leadership style like? How do you communicate, and how would you work across the aisle if you had to?
Yeah, I think that as a leader, one of the most important things is leading by listening first. And that's what I'm trying to do throughout this campaign, is make sure that the things that I talk about the most are the things that my future constituents are talking about the most. And I think that's really important. A lot of times, we will have elected officials that get in and they just vote the way that they personally feel, but it's against the best interests of what everybody else is saying. So as a leader, I think that we also lead by example. And when it comes to working across the aisle, I think personally, I will feel, a type of way about it. But when it comes to actually getting the work done, that's what really matters. And we can hash out the personal feelings later. If there's a Republican that I personally don't like that puts a really good bill up, it's going to increase transparency and accountability in our government, I would absolutely be willing to work across the aisle with that to get things passed, rather than just going in there and shooting for the moon just symbolically. So I think it's personally going to be a little bit difficult sometimes to work with certain people, but I think that I will be able to do it because the work is the most important thing, and getting legislation passed that's going to impact the people in my community is what's most important. And that, that's why I'm doing it. I'm sure that I will get loud sometimes. I try very hard to be calm, but I definitely get loud sometimes. So that may come out.
I love to hear it because everybody needs a little fire in their belly every now and then.
Yeah.
All right, give us your elevator pitch.
My elevator pitch. My name is Lauren. I am a Hoosier from Fishers, Indiana, and I am fighting because I believe that we deserve for hard work to be enough again. I believe that we have the money that we need to be able to pay for the things that we need to pay for, and we just have a prioritization problem. And I am really excited to be able to get to work and make sure that housing is more affordable and our utilities are more affordable, and that we make better decisions when we are giving money away to corporate tax incentives. I talk about corporate tax incentives a lot, and I'm told that I should stop talking so much about corporate tax incentives.
No.
But I really think...
No, because I imagine you always add context to it.
Yeah.
Like you tell them why you're talking about it, because how it impacts your community.
Yeah.
So,
well, sometimes you see people's eyes glaze over. They're like, well, how are you going to make things more affordable? And I say, let's talk about corporate tax incentives.
And they're like, huh?
Yeah. So, I mean, in reality, I have a lot of ideas, and I'm really excited to be able to go knock more doors and just hear from more constituents what they believe and what they want to see change. And I'm very fortunate because a lot of it aligns with what I believe as well. So I don't really have to, become somebody that I'm not. So I hope throughout this whole process, I can remain myself and just be authentic to myself. And it's going well so far. So I hope to be able to continue that.
Well, I think you're going to be fantastic. I am so happy to know that we are on the Democratic side of the House. We are running incredibly intelligent people, and your intelligence just oozes through the screen, sis. I mean, it's just oozing through the screen, biochem and music. So if you can, move your digits in different ways or your limbs in different ways, you're way more talented than I'll ever be. So congratulations. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, so my social media is all Lauren Cole 4IN, and that's 4 spelled out, FOR. Mm-hmm. So that's on Instagram, that's on Threads, that is on Facebook, and it's on TikTok as well. And then my website is laurencole4in.com. So you can go there, you can donate. Obviously, asking for money is really difficult, but as a grassroots candidate, it is really, really important that I have people support me so that we can buy things like yard signs, and I can give my volunteers water when it gets hot outside, and all that type of stuff. We also have a newsletter that goes out every single week. Ooh. So you can just sign up for that, and you'll be seeing what we're doing in the campaign. The goal for that is to show different volunteer opportunities that we have available, opportunities to donate during different fundraisers that we do, and just keep up to date with how many doors we're knocking and what we're hearing at the doors.
Well, it sounds like you're running a very professional campaign. I can hear that it can be grassroots and professional at the same time. I mean, you made your ask. You told the people to volunteer. You told them to sign up for your newsletter so they can keep up with what you're doing. That was pitch perfect.
I learned that from you because I went to a training that you spoke at.
Oh my goodness. I didn't told on myself. Well, you know what? I'm glad to see that the training worked. And would you encourage other candidates to come to Indiana's own state party training?
Absolutely. I left so fired up. It was such a good experience. And we were just talking about campaign finance, so it wasn't even super fun, but you made it super fun. So I definitely recommend.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I'm glad you went. Lauren Cole running for House District 37. She like me. She running against the speaker. So, I get excited when people are brave and bold and saying, nah, bruh, that ain't it. Lauren Cole, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us on Turn Left. I really do appreciate it. Good luck. Y'all sign up for her newsletter. I'm trying to tell you.
Thank you.
Guys, let me tell you something. I can't remember everybody that came to my training. So I feel bad that I don't actually remember that she was in the training, but I'm glad she was, and I'm glad she told me because we had over close to 100 people in that training, and I stood up at the thing and I did the thing, and if they didn't really come up and exchange number, but you know what? That told me when she gave her pitch perfect pitch, the training worked. I've been trying to tell y'all. Learn how to run a campaign. It's one thing to have the passion and the desire to make change. But if you don't know how to show up for the interview, you're not getting the job. And that being said, listen, click her donate link. Oh my God, I am so excited to see one of the people that came to the training is doing it the right way. So that makes me happy. I feel good about it because I always tell you guys, bring whatever it is that you have to the movement. If you have something that you do, if you're an artist, if you're a musician, no matter what it is, bring it to the movement. Don't nobody in this state talk more than me. Nobody. So I put on an 8-hour training class because I can talk for 8 hours nonstop, only to have lunch. So no matter what it is, you can bring it. And so I'm able to bring a training so you can find what it is that you can do. Figure out how you can help Lauren. Figure out what gift you have that will help this candidate across the finish line. And we're talking about Hamilton County, in the Hamilton County area. Y'all getting more and more purple. So help Lauren, donate to her campaign, find a way to support her because she knows what she's doing. She knows how to run a campaign. All right, Indiana's own Dana Black. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will holler at y'all next time. Peace. Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions, executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by Dorian and 22 from Pixabay.